Welcome back, amazing leaders, to another powerful episode of Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Dora Mendez. Today, we're diving into a conversation at the intersection of technology, equity, and transformation. Three forces that are reshaping the future of leadership and social impact. Our guest is a visionary who understands that technology isn't just about innovation, it's about access, equity, and community. She spent 2 decades building bridges between people and possibility, leading digital transformations that don't just change systems, they change lives. I'm thrilled to welcome Jean Westrick, the Chief Executive Officer of Technology Association of Grantmakers, also known as TAG. She's a change management leader and a champion for equity in STEM education. By the end of this conversation, you will walk away with fresh insights on how to leverage technology as a tool for equity, strategies for leading transformational change in your organization, and a renewed understanding that innovation and inclusion are not just compatible, they're inseparable. This episode is your invitation to think bigger about how technology can amplify your impact strategically, equitably, and boldly. So let's settle in, take a breath, and get ready. Roll credits. Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. It means so much that you join us week after week for these conversations, that you continue with us through season 3. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. That's why we started this podcast. If you are new to the Building Leadership community, we are so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Say hi in the comments. We read every single one of them and reply to every single one. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button so we can continue to bring you great content. We have a great resource to share with you today. If you're facing a setback in your career or navigating a transition that feels uncertain, you don't have to rebuild alone. Sometimes you need a structured, clear action plan to help you take the next step with confidence. That's why I created the Career Relaunch Checklist. It's a complete, self-paced action plan designed to help you relaunch your career with clarity, resilience, and purpose. This powerful checklist walks you through every stage of your relaunch, and it's only $19. You'll get AI upskilling tools to help you stay competitive in a changing job market and future ready strategies to rebuild with confidence and direction. Whether you're recovering from a layoff, shifting industries, or stepping into leadership, this plan gives you the structure you need to move forward with intention. Your comeback story deserves support, strategy, and a clear path forward. The link is in the description. Let me tell you about our guest, Jean Westrick. She's someone that is a client. She's a Coach Dora client. Uh, and I hope that she would say that we've become friends in this process, and she's become someone that I really admire. She's the CEO of Technology Association of Grantmakers, as we fondly call TAG Tech. TAG is a nonprofit organization that cultivates the strategic, equitable, and innovative use of technology in philanthropy. But her impact extends far beyond any single title. Jean brings 2 decades of experience building communities, leveraging technology, and leading innovation and programmatic strategies prior to her role at TAG. She was a director of IT strategy and communications at the Chicago Community Trust, where she led change management efforts for the foundation's 6 million digital transformation initiative. While at the Trust, Jean also directed On the Table, an award winning engagement model designed to inspire resident action that was replicated in 30 cities nationwide. A longtime advocate for equity in STEM education, expanding technology access, and increasing science literacy, Jean holds a bachelor's from Michigan State University and a master's of science from DePaul University. And today, Jean is here to pour into you. I am so honored to welcome the innovative and inspiring Jean Westrick. So, with no further ado, let's bring her onto the stage. Hi,
Hello,
Jean.
Dora.
Hi, Jean. I really do mean it. I mean, you're not just like, technically, you're my boss, right? You're my client, but you also have become just really someone whose leadership I truly admire. And I'm so happy to welcome you on the show. And congratulations on elevating to Chief Executive Officer. I'm so overjoyed for you.
Thank you, Dora. Can I call you Dora, or do you prefer me call you Coach Dora?
Dora works great.
Well, you have certainly been a coach to me, so I appreciate that title that you've taken on yourself. Yes, I'm so grateful to be sitting with you here 2 years after starting with the Technology Association of Grantmakers, initially as its executive director and its third executive director, and then recently being recognized as the its first chief executive officer and president, which I'm so grateful for. This is an incredible time to be leading this small but mighty organization who really works at that important part of leveraging technology to advance change in service of mission. And so I'm grateful to be here to talk to you about that.
Thank you so much. So I'm so thrilled because, this is our third season at Building Leadership Community. And you are our first, technically, you are our first guest who really sits at the center of philanthropy and technology. And I would love for you, I know we shared your bio, but I would love for you to tell us in your own words, share with our listeners and our viewers your unique leadership story.
Yeah, no, I think that's people often ask this and like, how did you get here? And I am, I'm not to give away my age, but a lover of those '80s movies. So if you remember "Say Anything," when Lou Dobler said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" This big question, and he says, "I don't want to sell anything or buy anything or process anything as a career." And he had this whole sort of monologue about that, and I have to say that really resonated with me. And I'm grateful that I have been able to spend my entire professional career working on mission, on the big ideas that really can bring about positive change. Because at the heart of what how I show up every day is as an optimist that we can do better. And so, um, taking tactically speaking, I started my career in philanthropy almost 25 years ago. I was a young, ambitious young woman who wanted to change the world. And I saw this opportunity at the Joyce Foundation here in Chicago, and I became a program assistant where I supported the grant making efforts of that organization, which is a huge funder here in the Midwest, and supports a number of causes. But I was really just struck by this coming from a blue collar background, this idea about philanthropy and the role that philanthropy plays in really, I think in three central tenets. Like, there's this idea around creating positive change, and doing that with a spirit of generosity, and then also ultimately this focus on the North Star of justice. And so those three themes that we find in philanthropy really spoke to me, and inspired me that I can contribute to supporting change makers who are striving to make the world a better place. And so that really planted a seed in me 25 years ago, and that has really helped dictate, my own career choices. I've actually turned down jobs that paid more because the mission on another opportunity resonated more with my own heart, and so I've used that to guide my own choices. Am I taking on ambitious projects that are going to help me learn and become better? And then am I also going to contribute to making the world a better place? We're here for such a short time, and time is that non-renewable resource that we have to hold precious, and how we spend our time really has to be important.
I love that, Jean. I appreciate you sharing that so much. And we have that in common. We have two things. There are two things you said you have in common. One, we love 80s movies. Say Anything is one of my favorite movies ever. Uh, so thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
And then the other thing is I've spent my whole career in the public sector and government and nonprofit and now philanthropy. And part of that was because I always felt that you spend so much time at work,
Mhm.
away from your families, so much time at work, that I truly believe it should be for something that is in service and is. So we share this purpose driven. Nothing against people who want to make money and work in corporations and all that, but I we share this like purpose, mission driven in common. And so what I would love to, besides 80s pop culture, um, I would love for you to share what community means to you. You know, leadership can be lonely and isolating. So here's kind of your opportunity to share some wellness tips and why community is so important to you.
Hmm. Oh, that's such a good question. And prior to becoming an accidental techie, because before I joined TAG, I was at the Chicago Community Trust, which, having worked for a big private foundation, the Joyce Foundation, and then going to a community foundation, they serve in different ways, and community foundations are really about responding to community need. And I had the great fortune of joining the Chicago Community Trust as part of its centennial. It's one of the oldest community foundations in the country, and so being able to tell that story of community and how community shows up in purpose, and through generosity can make big things happen really has inspired me. I got to be the director of civic engagement for the foundation, its first director of civic engagement, where I led a project called On the Table, which was a day of civic reflection and dialogue. We had that; it was a huge initiative. It was our largest public facing initiative that we did at the Chicago Community Trust. And it was an opportunity for everyday residents to come together, break bread, and talk about what matters to them and what they value and need in community. And we had a whole host of other activities around that. That model of civic engagement, community engagement, in ways that are different than say political engagement, but the things that connect you to your neighbors and what you share in common, really did inspire me. And that also inspired about 30, I think 35 communities across the country use that model to have their own sort of listening opportunities with residents. And so, you know,
I
um,
like that. When so community, what community means to you is bringing together your neighbors, um, and and you found inspiration in that. So I love that notion of
yeah,
bringing together neighbors and then being able to replicate the model of how to bring neighbors together, is just really is fascinating to me.
yeah, I think we're living in pretty divisive times, and that's unfortunate because with division we're not solving problems. We're not solving the things that really matter at the heart of each and every one of us, and we share a lot more than we differ. And so we're in a time where there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of change that is happening. And so I really do believe that the antidote to that anxiety is community. And so that's something that you do not need to be a CEO of a small nonprofit like I am in order to tap into your community. Um, your community can be geographically located by the people who live in your building or on your block, but also too it can be your chosen community too. And so this where I sit now at this space, leading an organization that is the global voice of philanthropy tech. Um, I've got members across the country who are trying to do really powerful, big things, whether it be, address homelessness or housing crisis or, poverty issues or improve educational outcomes, whatever their sort of challenge is. We're all doing it in service of our community, however we define that. But being able to come together and to be able to just have genuine conversation um, means that we're not doing this alone because no man is an island or woman is an island, but we have to do it in collaboration, and we have to do that within our community to make change happen.
I love that nugget that community is an antidote to anxiety. I just
Yes.
love that. I love that nugget, and I think our listeners and viewers will that's a really great highlight considering the context of the times that we live. And so, just building on that, I'd love to pivot a bit and ask you specifically, what advice do you have for the next generation of leaders, and would that be something you would tell your younger self when you first started early in your
Mm.
career? What advice you have to share, because you certainly have amassed like a huge dossier and a wealth of knowledge and putting ideas into real impact. So I think I would love to hear your advice to next generation of leaders.
Um, yeah, I think a lot of this comes back to community in and of itself, and um, I'm so grateful. Going back to this '80s movie moment, it's just like I'm so grateful I grew up in an analog era, and now got a foot now in both camps of what it was like, and in a simpler time. Because we're so much behind the screen, and sometimes the way in which we communicate can be very, very transactional. Um, and so, and I try to try to be the leader that I had hoped that I had, the somebody who would coach, who would give me good advice, be a cheerleader, but also be able to give direct feedback. Because I think that helps us grow, is when we can give constructive feedback. But I also come back to a motto that I have for myself and how I try to be, is first, be cool, be sweet, be yourself. So number one, be cool, stay calm. Like not everything is an emergency. Don't trace drama. I'm absolutely hyper allergic to drama. How do we stay super focused on our purpose and maintain that cool head? Because cool heads will prevail. You'll do your best thinking and your best actions when you're calm. And so trying to just don't be so reactive, be cool. Um, be sweet. We are, again, acting in our best self, our best interest when we act with a spirit of kindness and generosity. And you don't have to know everybody's story. because there's a lot of things that people are holding on to, that they're dealing with, that they're juggling with in their daily life. And try to give people grace, try to show up with kindness and generosity. This doesn't mean that you need to be a pushover. I think that there's got to be a balance there, but try to lead with sweetness because you can't put the kitty back in the cage. So don't don't go out there. You have to really sort of stay cool. Try to show that you are leading with best intention and understand that people are trying to do their best as well. So be kind. Um, and then I think the last piece is be yourself. You know, I think we can get way too much in our head about what kind of leader we should be, how we should show up, how we should talk, act, walk, look, whatever the thing is. And you know, we're we're in a time where authenticity is your golden ticket. And so when you can lean in and really be yourself, um, your experience, your perspectives, your voice, which are truly uniquely yours, those are your invaluable gifts. And so leverage your gifts in a way that honors your true self. Um, I never invited more anxiety to my own life when I tried to act like somebody else or tried to model myself off of somebody else. I think that when you're authentically you, you're going to shine, and people are going to connect to that because people are hungry for authenticity in this day and age where we're seeing a lot of AI slop and a lot of transactional conversations and things. Just how do you maintain honor to your own true experience, because that diversity is really, it's your superpower.
I love that. That is one of our uh in our description of the Building Leadership Community podcast, we have authenticity is a superpower. That is in the description of this podcast. And so I love that. Be cool, be sweet, be
Be yourself.
yourself. I love it. Be cool, be sweet, be yourself. And so that's great advice. And I just, were you aware, Jean, that slop is the 2025 word of the year?
No, I did not know that, but I think
AI
we're all
slop.
feeling like there's a lot of slop out there,
The
and
word Merriam-Webster, this was just announced like a night ago. At this recording's going to be in 20. This recording's going to air in 2026. But this is December. We're recording now. You're in Chicago. I'm in New York. Just for our listeners and viewers to know sort of where we are geographically. Um, and it's December 2025. And the word of the year, Merriam-Webster's word of the year is slop. And you mentioned AI slop. so
well, I am a thought leader, Dora, and I do have my own tech trends that I'm proposing for the philanthropic space. And yeah, I hope we produce a lot less slop, and a lot more intention that helps move community forward, because the need could never be greater, and the work remains, regardless of the tools that are out there. Just because we can do more doesn't always mean we're going to do more better. And so I think that this intentionality has to be our guide, as well as our purpose has to be that North Star that we stay focused on. It's easy to get
so
distracted.
Jean, I have to just thank you so much for coming on our little show. And for taking the time. I know how busy you are because I work with you, and I'm so proud and happy to showcase your thought leadership, to showcase what a North Star you are as a person. To the
Thank you.
world and with our audience, with our viewers, and can you share with our audience viewers how, if they wanted to learn more from you, how they can keep in touch with you, how can they learn more from you? What would you like to leave our audience and viewers with?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Jean Westrick, and I think I'm the only one. But I'm easy to find there. You can also follow the Technology Association of Grantmakers on LinkedIn as well to learn more about our programming and our mission. And if you are a foundation who is struggling with things like developing a data culture to really leverage data for good insight and decision making, and just managing your data in a way that really powers your mission and positively, join tag. If you are trying to manage complex risk and dealing with where to start with your cybersecurity program, join tag. And finally, if you're thinking about leveraging technology to really transform your organization and leveraging AI, which is everywhere these days, in a way that is going to really honor your mission and your vision, join tag. So I think that's a call out. If you are a grant making organization, check us out, tagtech.org. And certainly feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to hear from folks out there.
So, Jean, thank you so much again. And I want to share from you, this is a great audience for that pitch. Because before us meeting with you, we actually had a head of development for community foundation. So this is a great audience for TAG and for you. And you heard it here. Be cool, be sweet, be yourself, and join TAG if you care about supporting community at the intersection of equity and technology. Thank you so much, Jean. I'm going to ask you to hold on as we roll our closing credits. Good. Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora M. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora M. Visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.